What's up, everybody? Just want to take a quick second and let people know that I am self-supported. I now put all of my episodes on Substack for paid subscribers. I put them up early, and then 24 hours later, I release them to the public on all my platforms. I also have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Zelle, a PO Box, and I don't think Locals, Patreon. And all of the links are in the show notes of every single episode I put out. So look forward to continuing to provide great conversations. And thank you all for your continued support. Eric, we scheduled this earlier in the week, and I think the timing could not be better for this conversation. Do you agree?
I do agree. It's pretty wild out there, right, Michael? What's
It's
happening?
so
Yeah.
let's back up a second because it's Black Friday today, and to last night, and share what happened last night and what your thoughts were as you're watching this unfold in regards to CME and silver.
Okay. So basically, you guys, like the US, had the Thanksgiving holiday, right? But Globex, which is the COMEX after hours trading, so your nighttime, it started trading 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's my understanding. So if I'm incorrect, somebody can correct me. But like, it started trading at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's the Globe X, which is the COMEX after hours trading. So everything, seems to be okay. Gold and silver was going up a bit. And then all of a sudden, I saw that the futures price at the COMEX versus the spot price at the LBMA was almost at a dollar contango. What that means is that like it switched from backwardation to contango, meaning that the futures price all of a sudden flipped and went higher than the spot price. Now that's significant because when it's in backwardation, which means the London price is higher than the COMEX price for silver, it made economic sense for authorized participants at the COMEX to ship silver from New York to London. Because of course, right? London is more expensive, New York cheaper, right? So they made money. It covered all the transaction costs, shipping costs. Then they shipped it, like from New York to London, and that makes sense for the last month because, as you probably know, Michael, the COMEX vaults, at least on paper, had all the silver, had a bunch of silver, but LBMA at one point last month, according to Robert Gottlieb, executive at JP Morgan Bullion Bank, said that it was down to zero free float of physical silver. So, like I said, back up a bit. In the last month, situation was in backwardation. London was more expensive in terms of silver than COMEX, so they shipped the silver, they bought the silver at the COMEX, or they stood for delivery of their contracts, and they shipped it to London. All of a sudden today, that flipped. Okay, I saw that flip, and it was $1 more expensive, almost $1 more expensive at the COMEX after I was trading versus the LBMA. So that would be bad news for the LBMA. But then within an hour after that happened, futures trading at the COMEX was halted, like it stopped. And then shortly after that, the CME group, like they're the ones who operate the COMEX, they came out and said that they have a bunch of server failures at the CME. Okay, like where these transactions or these automated basically like futures contracts are being transacted are held. Server farms or server
Like
rooms,
a data
and they're
center,
saying
a
that
data center,
yeah,
Eric.
data center, right? And they're saying that it overheated. So that's why it stopped. So like of course for the people like myself who were still awake because I'm in Asia, we were trying to find out what the heck is going on. And Dario came out, and you know Dario,
Yeah.
he's one of your guests, and
Yeah.
he said, "Hey, wait a minute, guys. The official explanation doesn't make any sense because like this data center is pretty new and they have like a lot of redundancy and they have like, really good cooling systems. So it doesn't make any sense. The official explanation doesn't make any sense." Somebody came out and basically said that, and it makes sense what he said, which is this is after hours, in the middle of winter after hours, where there's not that many transactions. So why would the servers fail in this scenario, right? So anyway, the bottom line is we don't believe that official explanation. We still don't believe that right now, even though now it's up and running, supposedly. And then options, there are no bid on options for some reason, but the transactions for gold and silver futures at the CME is back up right now.
So a couple questions that I have. My first question is, why couldn't they have just routed the transactions to a different data center?
Um, that's another question that somebody raised out. That person said, he worked at these data centers and he operated like, these tier one or tier two data centers. And his question was that, in a situation like this, where it's tier one, you would have redundancy. So like you said, Michael, why would it shut it down? It would have like, it doesn't make any sense that this thing is being shut down beyond like 5 minutes, for example. It should be up immediately after 5 minutes because there should be redundancy. So I can even read it for you, right? The person said, "I worked in this specific field in IT. Having an order book down more than 5 minutes for me is impossible at their level. They're not beginners and they have tons of money to have a resilient IT architecture. Having such a system down for 1 hour is complete BS."
Second question is, so all futures trading it was all halted.
Correct. For more than 6 hours, if I'm correct.
What did you think then? As soon as you saw this, what was your first reaction?
I thought they shut it down. I thought they pulled the plug. That's what I thought when I saw it. And then a couple of hours ago, before the New York opened at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, or 8:30 in terms of like the futures, somebody in China posted this. Do you see on my screen?
No, not yet.
Okay, I shared it. Should be up.
Still not. Oh, there we go. This episode is brought to you by McIlvaney Financial Group. Their advisors bring a depth of knowledge and experience that allow them to serve their clientele with care, ensuring their financial needs are met now and in the future. Personally, I'm not saying cash is worthless, but you can see what's happening. It's worth less every year. Gold is the opposite. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to www.mcilvaney.com/coffeeandamike.
Okay.
Wait, no, it's not. Oh,
So
there you go.
yeah, so one of my Chinese followers shared this. He said the rumor out in China is that an AP, which is an authorized participant at the COMEX, and I added or the LBME or both, because he didn't actually specify which exchange, stood for delivery for like 400 million troy ounces, which is around 12,441 metric tons of physical silver. So rather than before the bankers pull the plug, and they're now trying to figure out what to do. So that was a couple hours ago.
Okay, and I saw that post. Explain that to me like I'm 5 years old. So rather than default, the bankers pulled the
Yeah,
plug because
yeah. Well, it's plausible, right? Because I tell you, Michael, um, guess how much physical silver free float there's in the entire world right now. Like, let's be generous and account for everything. My buddy PM Buck on X, he went through all the different exchanges and subtracted all the silver held by ETFs, etc. And he came back with 20,000 metric tons of silver for the entire world. Okay, free float, and that was like 2 weeks ago. So if you account for the drain in the last 2 weeks, we're probably down to 15,000 metric tons. Okay, so the report of that, what that guy in China said, the 12,000 metric tons is pretty close to the entire world's free float of physical silver. But let's say at 20,000 tons, guess how much that is worth at $50 per troy ounce? It's worth 36 point.
you cut out. You cut out, Eric. Say 36 point what?
Yeah, sorry. $36.8 billion US dollars.
You cut out again. He's still there?
Do you
Okay,
yeah.
36 point. I
I'm
heard
still there.
36.
Do you hear me, Michael?
Now I
said
can't. Now I can't.
36.8 billion dollars.
Okay, got that. So
Okay, you got that? Okay. So basically my point is that now the silver price went up a bit, couple bucks, and the free float went down a bit, right? So let's say we're still at like 36.8 or like 37, doesn't matter. 36.8, 37 or 38 billion dollars, right? Something like that. In the big scheme of things, Michael, is that a lot of money for the entire world's worth of free floating silver? Let's say below $40 billion. Considering the fact that, like, let's say a tech company can be like one tech company is worth more than $1 trillion, right?
right. So it's not a lot of money.
There's not a lot of money, right? So rather than say that this theory or rumor is totally out in the woods, I propose that I think it's very plausible. But I look at it from another perspective. What I mean by that is, why did it take so long for this AP or whoever it is to push the button to stand for delivery for the silver, if silver is a critical mineral for these countries? You see what I'm saying? Because we're probably looking at a sovereign level, right? Somebody working for sovereign or very close to a sovereign, right? Like it can be China, Gulf countries, India, we don't know, right? But they could have done this 3 months ago, but they didn't until today. So that's my angle. I think it's plausible that this happened, but rather my question is, it's like there are 12 guys at the table, but there's only like 4 pieces of turkey for 12 guys. Why did it take so long for everybody to jump in to try to grab the piece of the turkey? That's my question.
Why did it, so then what are you thinking of why it took so long?
I think probably something behind the scenes happened, Michael, that prompted these entities to no longer wait, or they realized that we are down to the wire, that that there's no new silver supply coming online, or no new above ground silver that is going to be available. Or somebody might have caught wind that Donald Trump is going to slap export tariffs or export controls on physical silver starting in 2026 before the public, right? That's possible. because USGS just declared um, physical silver to be a strategic mineral for the US government. So that's, know, I think it's possible.
So if he put an export um, control on silver, say starting in 26, that would mean you can't remove it, or you can't remove it at all, or you'd have to pay a higher tax if you're sending it to. And this maybe I'm way off base here, so correct me. Um, to send it, you wouldn't be able to send it from the COMEX to the LBMA at that point.
Well, it would be like, let's say a 20% export tariff, then it wouldn't make sense, right? Because like if you have like let's say the spot price of silver is at that point is $60, and you got like 20% export tariff out of the US, you're paying $72. You're paying $12 more to get it out of the US. So essentially, it wouldn't make economic sense for the LBMA to get silver from the COMEX at that point. You see what I'm saying? So maybe that's in the air, or like somebody knows. So they're standing for delivery of silver to grab the easy silver before that happens. It's possible.
I mean, I remember it wasn't that long ago. It was $30 an ounce, and now is last time I checked today, was it over 54?
It touched 55 just 20 minutes ago before our conversation.
So now everything is back online, and you can start trading it. But what type of restrictions are in place now that it's back online?
Um, some people are saying that they don't see a lot of this for the options trade, but seems that the futures are trading, and it touched at one point today 55.20, the high point, now 54.80. We're talking about the December 2025 contract.
Yeah, I saw somebody post last night. I don't remember who did it, but they were referencing the Big Short and how when Michael Burry was on the phone with the bank, and they intentionally kept his position lower until they strengthened their own position, then allowing his position to catch up to where it naturally should have been. Did you see the parallel? Did you see that post?
Yes, I saw that post.
Is that a fair analogy?
It's possible, Michael.
Because I like trying to get trying to understand this. Where have you ever seen anything like this occur in all the years you've been doing this and analyzing?
No, I think, like I said before the show, I think we witnessing history. I think this is 50 years in the making, and I think gold and silver is going to get repriced to a more realistic level than where we're at right now. Obviously, $55 US dollars for per troy ounce for silver is not sufficient to um, entice silver holders to release the silver back into circulation, therefore increasing the global free float of physical silver. So to put it simply, I think they need a higher silver price to reach a new equilibrium.
What do you think that ceiling is?
I really think at this point, if they don't get it up to 100, it's going to be difficult for the strong hands to get that silver back into the system. to recirculate.
So last time we had spoken, we were talking about how I think it was you and I, or it might have been with David Morgan, I think too. But in reference to, there's so many contracts, silver contracts out there, but there's not enough physical silver to cover all this.
Yeah, I mean, David Jensen said the same thing. It's something like 375 to 1, paper to physical contracts for silver. So we might be seeing that, Michael. Like, what the guy said about the 12,000 metric tons of silver that is standing for delivery right now. That might be part of it.
I how do you describe your feelings of all this right now?
Well, I saw it coming. It's finally here. And I think what I tell people that if they don't own any physical gold and silver, it's never too late to start. And I think, if they're going to start now, and of course, silver is at all-time highs and gold is going to get back up there. And if they're afraid because it's at all-time highs, they can do dollar cost averaging. And I just shared another screenshot to your screen. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my feeling. I think it's a clown show. I think it's the LBMA paper gold and silver five brigade. They're trying to snuff everything with paper, but it's probably not going to work this time.
So they're basically they're writing more IOUs than what's actually out there.
Yeah, that's basically it. That's what they have been doing for many, many years, Michael.
Everything's a grift, Eric.
It really is. It really is.
even even in the precious metals, there's nothing that's not that hasn't been tarnished with some type of grift.
Yeah. Me and my friend Kim on X, we always like laugh because every day is some new grift that we find. Like the people it doesn't even necessarily need to be the people in power. It's just everybody at every level is trying to grift something. So I agree with you. It's a lot of grifting out there.
So if you don't, so because of there's so much IOUs or promises on paper, you think this time it's not going to work because, well, here this another thing. Isn't the LBMA contract in December? Isn't that another big milestone or big event coming up?
Yeah, well, I'm more focused on the Comex side, but yeah, there's been people who knows what's going on, like David Jensen, have been saying that they got to settle by December, right? That I guess that's what you're talking about. But December is also a big delivery month at the Comex. So, like I said, if the Comex is in contango versus the LBMA, which means the Comex futures price is more expensive than the spot price for silver at the LBMA, and also the December is a delivery month, then it's almost like a double whammy for the LBMA, right? Because you have people who don't have any financial incentive to ship the silver to the LBMA, but at the same time, they are standing for physical delivery at the COMEX, and they're withdrawing the metal from the COMEX.
Okay, so with the Comax, the delivery in December, based on what you said, they won't be able to hit the number that they need, right? Or hit their goal.
I really I don't know. Because my friend Bob Bullion, he says exactly what you're saying. He got the numbers and he keeps telling me that they're not going to hit their goal. Exactly what you're saying. And I, like many others, we are kind of like sitting on the fence, checking it out every day, looking at the numbers. But so far, Bob has been spot on, and he
cut out it.
I
You cut out
think
it. Eric, you cut out again.
what's it's okay. So I was saying, Michael, I'm thinking that you might be correct that that maybe the COMEX don't actually have all the physical metals um, free float that it claims that it has. It's possible. So we don't know until the delivery month is almost over.
Which would be the end of December.
Correct. Yes.
And what happens if the delivery goal is not met?
Price solves almost everything. I changed that a bit because I think the president of the CME told Carl Bass after 2008 that price solves everything. Even if you can't get a metal at like even a super high price because it's strategic to your country, then price doesn't really solve everything. But I think price solves most things, a lot of things. So, if like you ask me, how high can it go? If it gets up to 100 or 80 to 100, I don't know, right? Maybe they can get another 10,000 metric tons from like, just investors. It's possible.
Because people are going to want to unload it because it's such a high price.
Correct. Price solves almost everything, but not everything.
So that would get them through the month of December.
Yeah, they kick the can down the road, right, Michael? That's the whole, like how the Western financial system works. They just want to figure out new ways to kick the can down the road.
Yeah, that's
It's
the
funny because it's true.
that's the
Yeah.
ultimate grift, right? I mean, that's what I
Yeah.
was having dinner with friends last night, and we were talking about 2008, the housing and the financial crash, and I said, I never would have thought that this system would have lasted as long as it has, like a lot of people, but when you think the sky is falling, so to speak, they're very creative. They find ways to keep kicking the can down, buy more time.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. You're right.
So then, okay, what does this event that has occurred and now seems to be back online? How concerned should regular people? Because people are going to ask me, what does this mean, Eric?
I keep telling regular people, I mentioned it 5 minutes ago. If they don't own any gold and silver, go out there and buy some. If they're afraid of the high prices, do dollar cost averaging. If they already own some gold and silver and they don't think they own enough, dollar cost average. And most people, Michael, I mean, I sound like an old lady, right? When I say that. But guess what? I got tons of people thanking me on direct messages, okay? Because they listened to this like 6 months ago, a year ago, and they did it. And now they feel like they're financially more secure because not only that they have a whole bunch of gold and silver now, but they up some of them 50%, in terms of US dollars, right? So they're holding it. They're still adding. And, if we do, in fact, have a revaluation by the market of physical gold and silver and potentially remonetization of physical gold and silver as collateral by not only the global south and the BRICS countries, but also eventually maybe the West, these people would have secured their own financial futures plus the financial futures of their families. Okay, so I hope I answered that question.
You did. What does a revaluation or remonetization look like for the silver and gold? Is it something that occurs over a very short amount of time, or are we watching it happen now?
It's happening now, Michael. It's a process. It might take, like, I mean, if you start from, let's say, 2024, right? We're 2 years into it. from that bottom, right? Like at like 1,800 bucks gold. So it's a process. I think it takes time, and it just gives, regular people a chance to dollar cost average into this.
Do you feel like that we'll have some type of conclusion or ceiling by the end of this administration in the United States? 28?
It's, if they revalue, like, I mean, I'm talking about the US administration revaluing the US Treasury gold, the 8,133 tons. Right now it's at like 42.22 US dollars per mark to market revalue it to 8,000 bucks when we get there. That's going to be the new bottom for the global gold price. There you have it. So
Yeah.
you ask me a question, you ask me what's the end game? That's the end game. It looks like, I don't know if you talked to Judy Shelton, but I think she's legit. I think she is telling the truth to Americans. She thinks that the U.S. administration is going to audit U.S. Treasury gold. Okay, I use that word loosely, audit with quotation marks, because it might not satisfy, most people's concepts of audit. But she says they're going to audit it and then revalue it, mark to market, and then launch U.S. Treasury gold bonds, 50-year gold bonds. So if that happens, whatever gold price the U.S. government is going to revalue at is going to the bottom price for gold.
Yeah, the rumor. Well, there was talk that she was going to be possibly the next Fed chair, but now I'm not hearing that as much right now.
Yeah, she might actually just be a Fed member. It's possible, voting member, but we don't know until Powell finishes, his term, right? In 2026.
Is that something you chime in on? Your opinion on who you think would be appropriate for taking over that role?
You know what? I like Judy Shelton. I think she'll do a great job, even though I think the 50-year gold bond idea is just it's just like a gold payment deferral. because because essentially they're taking your money and then they're saying in 50 years we'll give you your gold back, right? So it's just sucking up liquidity from the actual gold buying into this financial instrument. But I like her. I think she'll do a great job. So if you ask me, she's the best pick for the job.
It's like a 50-year mortgage, Eric. Sounds
Yeah,
like.
that's basically what it is, right? You get your money back in 50 years in terms of gold.
I mean, will people actually do this?
Well, I'm sure you interviewed a lot of people and they talk to you about like US hegemony and how the US as an empire has a lot of vassal countries like Japan, like EU, that are who are beholden to the American empire, quotation marks. So those countries are going to buy this 50-year gold bond. They have no choice.
And it's and that'll allow the grift to continue.
Correct. Yes.
Do you see? Do you see a economic recession, depression in America, or even global fallout from all this?
It's possible, Michael, but we're far away from that. I'm just looking at the first stage where gold and silver get to a much higher level um, for the US government to revalue their physical gold. So that's where my mind is at right now. But you're right. Like, I mean, if the everything bubble pops, potentially the world might sink into a deep recession or depression even. It's possible.
How does this is another thing that I've had people on, and that I still can't grasp how the crypto stablecoin market will stablecoins will play a role in all this.
I thought I mention this to you last time? How that will work? The stable coins? Why they okay, so I can explain it quickly. So basically what the US government is trying to do is they're trying to, well, they said they're going to do this. They're going to make all the stable coins back themselves up 100% with US Treasury bills, bonds, and notes. Okay, so that's like a new buyer for US Treasuries. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the stable coins to be the new buyer of US Treasuries. So you might ask me, Michael, well, that's great, but who are going to buy the stable coins? What I think is going to happen is that the US government is going to force the US tech giants like Google, Facebook, Meta, Netflix, etc., to force everybody to buy stable coins with their US dollars and then use the stable coins to pay for some digital services. Like, for example, myself, right? I'm a foreigner. I'm not an American. I have Netflix. I watch Netflix. But Netflix actually, it takes US dollars from me, Michael. So I have to take my Hong Kong dollar, convert it to US dollar, and then I pay Netflix with US dollars. Now, in the future, maybe Netflix will tell me, hey, Eric, we don't want US dollars anymore. We want like Tether, or we want some sort of a Netflix stablecoin. And that stablecoin is backed with US treasuries, right? So then I have to take my US dollar and buy that stablecoin and then pay Netflix with that stablecoin. So inadvertently, I'm actually, assisting Netflix to buy more US treasuries, right? Through that stablecoin. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
You see that trick?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and also with this too, I'm glad you brought this up because maybe we can talk about
Yeah.
it for a few minutes. Is what Tether is doing right now in relation to what I mean. Well, what are they doing with gold?
So I have a friend, a really brilliant young man, Sunny Yao. He's a Indian, um, economist, very very bright young man, and he does a lot of research in macroeconomics, and he just notified me recently that what Tether is doing is actually the offshore Tether, not onshore in the US. The onshore Tether is going to be backed by US Treasuries 1-to-1, like we said, right? But offshore Tether, let's say in the Cayman Islands, that's going to be backed by gold. You see that? That's the trick, right? So you have people, who want the tech giant services or like want to buy some crypto in the US. You have to, buy US. You have to buy that tether, and then that tether will be backing itself up with US Treasury bonds, bills, and notes. But then some players may actually want exposure to physical gold, but they don't want to hold the physical gold themselves. They want to hold the physical gold proxy. So they would buy a offshore tether that is backed by physical gold.
And this person on social media, Sonny?
He is. He is. If he agrees to be interviewed, you should interview him. He's
What's
a really bright young man.
what's his
Yeah,
name on?
I'll send you the information after our interview.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, he's somebody I'd be interested in talking to more about this.
absolutely.
Uh, excuse me. The other thing I want to ask you about is
Yeah.
what's happened with Bitcoin over the last couple of weeks, if you don't mind chiming in
Yeah.
on that.
So yeah, I think what happened is there are rumors in China that the Bitcoin cold wallet, okay, not hot wallet, cold wallet, has been hard cracked with by quantum computers. Via the public key. Okay. So they like, theoretically, a quantum computer can actually crack the Bitcoin public key to acquire the private key. So supposedly that happened. I know there's a lot of debate. I don't want to get into it, but I'm just telling you what I know, okay? What the Chinese media and the Chinese government is sharing with the rest of us. So supposedly a big you know, this guy is supposed to be a criminal, but again, there's a lot of debate. I do personally think he's a criminal. Um, had billions of dollars of Bitcoin frozen and then confiscated by the U.S. government, and supposedly that's what happened. So I think, and then we saw a lot of the old wallets, like from the days of Satoshi, like 2013 or earlier, dumping the Bitcoins in the last month, basically, throughout the last month. So I really don't know what exactly is happening. I'm just sharing with you and your audience what I know, heard from my sources and from China. Okay. But if there's a security breach to Bitcoin, then I don't know how good Bitcoin is a store of value for the long term.
Well, that was going to be
That's it.
my next question of, where
Yeah.
where do you think this goes in terms of, I mean, based on what you just said, I think you answered it, but does it go back to that level it was around 125,000 or beyond that north, or does it keep pulling back? I was looking while you were talking. It's at excuse me, 92,000 right now.
Okay.
Got
So
as
that's
low
a
as eight.
yeah,
Oh,
very good question, Michael. Very good question. I'm gonna answer. I'm gonna shock you, okay, with my answer. A lot of people think that Eric Young is gonna say that Bitcoin is gonna zero. I don't think that. My base case is actually that Bitcoin should get to like uh, $500,000 or $1 million. Why? Because exactly what I just told you earlier. Because the U.S. government is trying to get more stablecoin usage, and 70% of all stablecoins minted right now are being used to purchase Bitcoin. Okay, so the higher Bitcoin goes, the more stablecoins need to be minted because they're one to one, right? Supposedly in value with US dollars. Therefore, more US treasuries are being bought, okay, by those stablecoins to back itself up. So I think in that kind of logic, Bitcoin should go up. But again, like if there's a security breach, I don't know. If that happens, then Bitcoin would go down. So there's a lot of crosswinds going on with Bitcoin. That's what I see.
but I think you said it, the bigger picture here. If the government doesn't want it to fail or wants it to succeed, and that's where what you've talked about, with me in previous conversations and today too, in regards to precious metals, they need them to go up in value.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why, Michael, I like everybody knows this. I made a lot of money on paper on like certain Bitcoin miners back in 2021. Like I'm talking about 10x. I didn't get out in time, but I made a lot of money on paper. So I believed exactly what you just said. I still believe it. But the fact is that Bitcoin is old technology, okay? And if quantum computers can hard crack it, or not even quantum computers, there can be other ways to crack it. Then where is it going to go? But like you and I both said, on the other hand, the U.S. government might want it to go up so that they can mint more, stable coins, right, to buy the Bitcoin for the public to buy it. In that scenario, maybe you know, my guess is going to be correct, and maybe it'll go up to $500,000. It's possible, right? So that's where I'm at right now. I think I still think now that Bitcoin is has rebounded from its lows of what, $8,400, 84,000, was it,
82
Michael?
or 84.
82,
So
84, yeah. I think it's possible that it can get back up to 110, and from there it gets up to 200 and maybe to 500. It's possible.
but that also, coming back to the precious metal side, because if people think it has nowhere to go but up, maybe not in a straight line, but because the government can't allow it to collapse.
For Bitcoin, right? We're
Go,
talking about, or
precious,
precious metals?
both.
Yeah, so I think yeah, you're probably right. They're kind of like, all tied in one way or another. So it's possible that gold, silver, and Bitcoin all go up at the same time. It's possible.
What an unbelievable period that we're living through right now, Eric.
Absolutely.
5 years from now, where do you see things on a global level, both in Asia, where you are, and the United States, where I am?
I think the world is going to be a lot less globalized than where we are right now. So what I mean by that is the US dollar is probably going to have a much smaller pie in terms of world trade, and the US treasuries, I'm talking about bills, bonds, and notes, again, are going to probably have a much smaller uptick by the rest of the world compared to right now. Once gold and maybe silver becomes like a, international collateral.
I've heard people say, a year or two from now, the world is going to look drastically different than it does today. What are your thoughts? It's a general statement, but what are your thoughts when you hear that?
I agree, because 5 years ago, I would have never thought that, you know, in the US or Canada, I, you probably know,
You
California,
cut out, Eric.
Las Vegas,
You cut out
or
again. So you said the U.S. and Canada, and then you cut out.
I said that I was just there like a couple months ago. I did a tour, or trip to California, Las Vegas, and I went up to Canada. Okay, so 5 years ago, I would have never thought that you know having a breakfast at a hotel cost me like 35 bucks.
Yeah, I lost you again, Eric. You there? You get you back?
Can you get me here,
Now,
Michael?
now
Are
I
you
got
okay?
now I got you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you said
I'm here. Yes.
$35, thirty-five
Can you
dollars for
hear me?
breakfast. Yeah, I got. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for breakfast. I'm just thinking like, things cost a lot more money compared to pre-COVID, right? So that's it. So who knows where we're going to be at in 5 years?
Well, and you're seeing, the K-shaped economy, right, where the upper echelon, there's becoming less of them, and then the middle class is becoming poor, and the poor is becoming poorer, and I I don't see how that doesn't continue, even especially in the short term, right?
Michael, I think I'm not a social welfare scientist. So I mean, I'm not the perfect guy to ask this question, but eventually maybe they'll have some kind of UBI for a lot of people. That's universal basic income. It's very possible.
And it's interesting you say that because Andy Scheckman and I have talked about that, and other people as well. But Matt Smith, uh, they've thrown the idea of these two, and I said I go watch. They'll use the revenue from tariffs, quote unquote revenue, to issue refunds to people, which it's UBI. And then last week or the last couple of weeks you heard the idea of $2,000 tariff checks coming back to the people.
Right. So I don't know. I think like that one they might they might not even do it. Who knows? Until I see it, I don't really believe it. Where are they going to get that money? They don't have that money to give everybody a $2,000 check.
What were your thoughts traveling through the United States? I mean, how long had the gap been between visits?
Um, what do you mean? How long? Like,
Uh,
before like my current trip,
the
when
recent trip,
did
and
I
then how
come?
long had it been
Yeah,
since you'd been here before?
couple years, maybe. Like, um, right before COVID, I came once, 2019, and then it was like this year, so 5 years. You can say 5 years. Yeah, I mean, a lot has changed for sure.
What did you notice about this trip? In the differential in between the years you'd been versus where you're at in Asia, in terms of like roads or infrastructure.
Well, I think the US haven't really changed much in terms of infrastructure, but China changed a lot. So China is almost like a completely different place now compared to 5 years ago.
For the better.
For the better, yeah. Because they have like really good electrification for their vehicles. So the air quality, I would say, is probably better than California, Shenzhen air quality.
Yeah, and this is a question that I've asked myself recently in regards to this. They've painted this picture of China being the enemy here in the United States for a very long time, right? China and Russia.
Yep.
But China, to me, and I've never been, but they have focused on the task at hand and just keep building their infrastructure and making their country stronger. And they are now the number one economic. And again, I'm posing this as a question to you, but economic and was it fair to say maybe militarily are one of China and Russia militarily are the most powerful.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not an expert in terms of military affairs. Um, between China, Russia, and the US, but you're right, Michael. China is definitely catching up in terms of its military hardware compared to the US.
And from the economic side standpoint too, I mean, I would say that they're ahead of the United States. No, or if not, pretty close.
I would say pretty close, probably not ahead, but definitely making a lot of headway in terms of like heavy industries and also light industries. Well, like I mean, light industries, China has always, in the last 20 years exceeded the US. But now I see that even with heavy industries, the high tech stuff, China is catching up to the US and potentially going to exceed the US. Like, in right now is semiconductors, right? China probably, I would say, within 5 years is going to be on par with the US in terms of semiconductors.
So as we're getting here towards the end of our conversation, today is Friday. What do you anticipate Monday will look like?
Well, I don't know if you checked the prices while we're talking. So December 2025 silver futures at the COMEX is 55.46 right now. So we're almost at like the day high. It's almost at all-time high right now. And the LBMA is at 55.19. Oh, well, hold on. 55.65 just jumped. 55.53, 55.65. So we're almost at parity, okay? Like the two places. Um, So I don't know. We'll have to see how Monday goes. They might slam it if they are able to, get some physical. I don't know. But if what I heard is real, maybe the unwinding will continue on Monday.
When you say unwinding, you mean prices will continue to go up?
Correct. Yes.
It's going to be people that think that December could be a calm month, being the end of the year. Um, Things can really. I don't know what the word. What's the word you use to describe this right now?
Well, I would say it's pretty insane, Michael. We're witnessing history.
How does this compare to 1971?
I think it's a lot more dramatic than 1971, Michael, because 1971 was just the beginning of the pure fiat US dollar experiment. I think we're now almost at the beginning of the end of that. I don't know if you agree. So, quite different.
Eric, where can people find you?
They can find me at King Kong 9888.
And as we, you literally next. Who knows what next week is going to bring? And as always, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me, and look forward to following your posts all weekend. I'm sure you're going to be active on social media this weekend, right?
Yep, absolutely, Michael.
And I'm sure it won't be that long before we talk again.
Absolutely. If your followers want to find me on X, it's at King Kong 9888.
Appreciate it, Eric. Mic drop.
Thank you, Michael.